Everyone, and welcome to our March 12th, 2019 regularly scheduled meeting. If you'd all please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Ziegler.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Beagle is excused. Councilmember Gotchall.
Here.
Councilmember Leader is excused. Councilmember Resnick.
Here.
Councilmember Smiley.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. Any changes to the agenda, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, we have one change to the agenda, Your Honor, to have an opportunity for a presentation that we're going to hear from Superintendent of the Public Schools System in Walled Lake.
Okay, great. Why don't we begin with that? That might be a good opportunity for Mr. Gutman to come up. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and thanks for allowing me a few minutes to talk to you tonight, not surprisingly, about an upcoming ballot proposal. We're really excited that we have an opportunity to change the face of our school district at no additional cost to taxpayers. Practically unheard of. Due to increasing property values, new housing starts, refinancing of previous bonds, 4 of our 5 current bonds are dropping off. And because of that, we can invest over $300 million, actually $316 million, into our buildings while providing a tax reduction. So this program would include several major initiatives. Rebuilding Dublin Elementary, that's a 1927, 1928 school. Great staff, the school's a little bit outdated. Significantly renovating Western High School. It would be an entirely different school, and it may be a particular note to this community. People always assume Western is our oldest high school. It's actually not the oldest Walled Lake Central is, but you wouldn't know by walking through it. Constructing an early childhood center to attract preschool children and retain them in our school district, and adding significant infrastructure, security, and program improvements at all other schools. This is the part that's not exciting: boilers, air handling units, parking lots, windows, that sort of thing. But it's also necessary. Our current school millage levy is 4.53 mils, which is lower than almost every district around us. The only one that's a little bit lower is Farmington. We're currently at 4.53 mils. Should this pass, we'd go to 4.13 mils. So it would be a decrease on a $200,000 home of about $40 a year. It's still a decrease. This bond represents an opportunity also for us to provide 21st century learning environments for our students while reducing taxes. Not sure if I mentioned the reducing taxes part. It's truly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So we have prepared a packet of information you have in front of you. There's a lot of information on our website, including a very boring video that we did on how this actually does reduce taxes. So if you have trouble sleeping or you want more information, it's a great resource. And then we did give you a sample resolution. We are asking our local municipalities if they feel so inclined at some point to pass a resolution prior to the May 7th ballot initiative. And above all else, I appreciate just the opportunity to come before you this evening and share this information.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody? Sure, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Smiley.
Hi, Mr. Gutman. The renovations to Western, and maybe this is a little too early in the process, but would they bring Western up to a similar look as Central? Would it be that big of a renovation?
They would. Walled Lake Western would be unrecognizable. If you take a look on our website, WLCSD.org, in the top right somewhere, there's a bond proposal button. If you push that, go to the bond presentation, there are photos that you will not even believe. So the answer is, the long answer is what I've just given you. The short answer is yes, it will be actually on par with Northern and Central.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Gotcha.
Just a quick question. In terms of educating the public as to how to get to that website, what types of things are we doing here?
Thank you. Yeah, we're speaking at all of the city council meetings. We will be speaking with some of our local newspapers as well. We're talking to every PTA, every staff meeting, and we're doing everything we can to make sure that there's an advocacy group that's out there that will be putting out postcards and signs and that sort of thing. But if you go to WLCSD.org, all of the factual information will be on our website.
Including photos, you said, right?
Beautiful photos.
Okay.
Artist renderings, but they're incredible.
Yep. Great, thank you.
Mr. Gatchel.
Thank you. Noting the early childhood center on here, is that in addition to the facility on Loon Lake Elementary's campus right now?
It is. That's our early childhood special education building. We're talking about a general ed and special ed early childhood center on the area of 13 in Meadowbrook.
Okay.
And for those who've not seen the early childhood centers in the districts around us, they're incredible, including Novi, which is just unbelievable. Built to scale. There are some photos on our website as well. But ultimately, it provides the kind of learning environment that our young learners need, keeps them within our school system, and has them with our coordinated curriculum from pre-K to kindergarten.
Okay. And then with the former high school property in downtown Walled Lake, if anything you get from the sale of that, is that applied toward similar kind of upgrades, or is that kind of going to be directed to different use?
General fund.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Good question.
And the election is?
May 7th.
May 7th?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
All right.
Well, thank you very much for coming.
Appreciate it. If anyone has any questions, there is an email address on our website as well. I'll be more than happy to answer them all.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Come back soon.
Be happy to.
Thanks. Before we get started on our agenda, we also have a guest here from Senator Runsted's office, Linda Hyaduk, and she would like to introduce herself and say a few words. So please come up.
Thank you. Thank you. Here to introduce myself to the council and also to the citizens of Wixom. Again, I'm from Senator Jim Runsted's office, and we just wanted to let everybody know that we have been up and running since January. We are available for your phone calls, emails, visits to our office, and we also will be having coffee hours on a monthly basis on the 4th Fridays of the month. And this month's coffee hours will be March 22nd, and we'll be at 3 different restaurants from 8 o'clock in the morning until 1 o'clock in the afternoon to meet with constituents in the district. And you can get the information on our website, which is senjrunstead@senate.michigan.gov. I just want everyone to know that Senator Runstead is the kind of person who really, really values hearing from his constituents. Our doors are open, our ears are open, and we really want to hear from you. So please come to our coffee hours or give us a call if you have an opinion on something or you have an idea. And thank you for allowing me to introduce myself this evening.
Thank you. Does anybody up here have anything to add to the agenda? Mr. Gatchel.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure that new business 9 and 10 were on there, because I know when we got our packet, it wasn't on.
Right. Yeah. Blake, I got one.
Okay.
Okay. First on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes this evening. The first is the joint City Council, DDA, Planning Commission, and ZBA meeting of February 20th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any changes, additions, subtractions, or corrections anybody has to point out? Okay, seeing no one. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. The next item is the special City Council meeting of February 26, 2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. The next is the regular City Council meeting of February 26, 2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Support.
Any discussion? Corrections? All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Correspondence, there is none. We go to the first call to the public, and I will read the rules for public speaking. The public shall address the council during the call to the public which shall be included on the agenda immediately after correspondence and again immediately after new business. The first call to the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless the time is extended by a majority vote of the council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and shall state their reason for addressing the council. And finally, all comments by the public shall be made directly to the council. Anybody wishing to address the council this evening on any agenda items, please come forward and make your comments. Seeing nobody standing up, I will close the first call to the public. Next item on the agenda are the city manager's reports. We have two. The first is the fire monthly report. Anybody have any questions, comments? We also have the police monthly report of January 2019. Anybody have any points to bring up? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the items will be removed from the consent agenda and added to the regular agenda at the end of unfinished or new business. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Support.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is unfinished business. We have one item, recommendation to accept the Lindout Associates Architects AIA PC of Brighton, Michigan, proposal for bid development and construction administration services for the community center and city hall improvements for a total not to exceed $16,320. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Support.
Discussion. This is one of those items that we had a week ago, and it's been rewritten and kind of restructured. And anybody have any questions, comments?
I think the information that was provided is pretty thorough. So.
Okay. We have oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Sure.
To me, it just kind of seemed like a restatement of why we wanted to do this, like it was asked the last time. So I think, I know I speak for myself and potentially to the deputy mayor's point when he was here about, we haven't discussed doing like the city hall renovation in the budget study sessions. The other work has been mentioned and discussed, and I think that was kind of our point together was we're going to be bidding out on work that wasn't previously funded, essentially. So kind of my issue is looking at, I was told that would come from the facilities improvement budget, and at that point we're talking about redoing 2 kitchens here under like $18,000. I don't reasonably see that happening if we're fully redoing both kitchens. So my concern is now we've gone with work that we haven't discussed before. We sent it out to bid, we decided to do it, and then down the road we're going to be asked for a budget amendment because we're going to go over budget.
We have separated them out, and I asked Lindout to separate the costs for each of the 4 projects that we had talked about. And what we were trying to get an economy of scale with Lindout anyway to get that design in. And if we would separate it out, we were going to end up on about $13,000 more to do it separately if we would still end up doing it. What we intend to do now is to put it out to bid. We'll separate it out, 2 different constructions, see what the prices are on those, and if we only do a portion of it, we can negotiate it at that time. But we're asking to get the design out, look at the pricing of what the contractors will be able to provide for us, and we think we are hopeful on this. So we can separate out the HVAC from the rest of the construction if needed at that point.
The 13,000 isn't for work though, that's just for them doing their drawings and preparing bid information. My point is when we get to the actual work, we're not going to be able to remodel 2 kitchens in $18,000. I don't think it's gonna happen. So that's the point is now we're spending money to have them put together drawings and a bid for things, which is fine, it's going to cost less now.
Yep.
But we're spending money to plan for something we haven't even talked about doing yet, which is kind of, we're jumping the gun, I would say, at a point. So it's something I think I had mentioned last meeting where we're trying to throw stuff in to projects because we can get it for cheaper now, but we haven't ever talked about it. And that's kind of my issue at this point is HVAC, we know we need to do. We've been talking about it for like every year I've been up here.
Right.
We talk about the issues with it. So I don't like tying necessities to things that we hope to have done. So that's my issue with this at this point. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Do you have anything else to say or
No,
comments to make?
just that, you know, we had asked Lindau to separate that out, and the bids that he proposed was for all of it, and to put it out to bid without one or more of them results in us spending more and you know, so this is the time to do it. It's the construction season. We feel that it's the time to get the bids that we need, and if we get to the construction, you know, we still have to bid that out, and once we get those bids back, we can talk with the prospective contractors and do what's right for the city. And
If I may, Your Honor, just to supplement that a little bit. What Councilman Gonchal mentioned there in terms of not having discussed some aspects of the work before, I think that's fair in terms of the City Hall kitchen project, but we had discussed the police department kitchen project in the past. So the main point that I think we're trying to make in terms of how we've structured this is I don't think we're going to save anything if we reduce the scope of work for the architects from what he's put before us. So we'd advocate proceeding with that. And then the main point on when we get down to bidding it out, we're going to bid it out in such a way that we can, and we'll make known that the city reserves a right to reduce the amount of work, take out projects to the extent that we make that decision. We'll make that clear in the bid process. And when we bring it forward for discussion by the council for award, at that time, if there's a concern on anybody's part about any of the kitchen work, that's something you can address and say, let's have that taken out and do the project for this much less. And I do understand where you're coming from on the optimistic cost projections, but as I said, we will have the chance to look at this one more time in front of the council here, and you'll have the opportunity to say, yeah, really not in favor of doing this piece of work because I think it's just too expensive, or I don't think it's an appropriate focus for dollars at this time. Those kind of things, that kind of feedback can be given at that time, and we can pare it back when we award the bid at that time. That's the only point that I would try to make just a little bit more clearly.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in favor of this because when you look at all the work that's been put into updating this building and the building across the way and back in the police department, we've put a lot of effort into it, and you guys have put a lot of work into it. And really, that kitchen back there is probably the last thing that's got to be done at this point. And I think that it'd be kind of silly for us not to finish it up and complete the job. So I'm fully supportive of it, and especially with the explanation that Steve just made as far as we're going to get a second view of this before anything really takes place with respect to that room. So I fully support the proposal. Anybody else? Mr. Resnick.
So, Tim, in terms of running the wires for the digital control system for the HVAC and all, we will have to disrupt ceiling tiles anyway to pull wires and conduit, correct?
Yeah.
So, you know, another feeling of mine is if we're going to disrupt facilities and people displacement, even if it's for a day or two, do it once, get it done, and get it done. So, I support it as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks. That takes us to new business. First item under new business is consideration of the confirmation of the mayor's recommendation to appoint Tia Grunland Fox to the vacant city council seat effective immediately with the term expiring November 11th, 2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Ms. Grunland Fox is here, and would you like to come up and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to, why you'd like to be up here?
Good evening. Yes, and I appreciate being here. My reason for being here is I've lived in the city for 12 years. Oh, sorry. I've lived in the city for 12 years. I do have familiarity with local government as I work for a municipality next door. I have for 20 years, so I'm familiar with how things operate, the relationship between council and the directors, and I'd like to learn more about our city, our great city, and I feel that I have a lot to offer.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions or points? Mr. Resnick?
I understand from reading the short resume that you have a specialization in labor relations as well and assist the city.
I do.
The
yeah.
neighboring city in that as well.
I am the Director of Human Resources,
Okay.
and I negotiate all of the labor contracts.
Great, super. Well, we could use experience like that on the council. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I had the pleasure of getting to chat with, Miss Grunland Fox a couple nights ago, and then we got to all meet her last night. She came to our goal-setting session. She brings some, really good credentials, up to this dais. I support having her take a seat up there.
Great.
Mayor, if I can muddy the issue for just 30 seconds, if you'll grant me the indulgence. At that goal-setting meeting, we talked about charter amendments was one of the things that we talked about as a potential area of focus for council in the future. And I don't recall that this was specifically addressed, but this is an area where we need to fix something. Because right now, we're going to appoint, hopefully, Ms. Grunland Fox here to a position, and we previously appointed Councilman Brent Leader to a position, and because of the outdated charter language that was in there, we've appointed them to positions that are set to sunset, expire on the Monday following the election, which is November 11th, which is going to put the city in the position of having 2 seats vacant for 4 meetings, 2 meetings in November and 2 meetings in December, because the person that gets elected at that prior election doesn't take office until January. So that's an example of a mishmash of things that happened in our charter. That was probably appropriate once upon a time based on the dates of things that were happening, but things were changed, and they were changed unilaterally, and the impact wasn't looked at in other areas. So this situation, we're pointing 2 people potentially to positions that are going to expire a full 4 meetings before we have replacements. So at the end of the year, we're going to have 4 vacancies foisted upon us by the charter language, and that would be something that we should consider looking at. I meant to mention that at our discussion, and I didn't.
Thank you.
And that was one of the things that from when Brent was appointed, that was one of the things that definitely needs to be looked at. And
So hypothetically, let's say one or both of those 2 individuals run for re-election in that election, and they get elected, they're going to be forced to step down for 4 meetings and then take office again in January, which is ludicrous, essentially. But it is what it is for right now, because that's the language in the charter.
Right.
And
Yes.
I'll be quick. Just to reiterate, I think we talked about this. Our theory is that there was a time when a newly elected council person would be sworn in mid-November.
Right.
And somehow it got changed, and now it's in January, and that's where this hole was created that was never
Right.
fixed, and it's only now being discovered. So it's.
Right. And I wanted full discllosure for Ms. Grunland
It's a
Fox,
great
so she knew what
case
she was doing.
for cleaning up the charter. Yeah. That's all. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the appointment of Ms. Grunland Fox to City Council. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say, I also look forward to working with all the directors as well.
Great. Why don't we have a quick swearing-in ceremony, and then perhaps you can join us.
Okay.
We need the votes up here. Short.
So just raise your right hand and say. You solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Michigan, the Charter and ordinances of the City of Wixom, Oakland County, Michigan, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties and responsibilities of City Council member according to the best of your ability. Yes, I will.
Mr. Kennedy vacated that seat, so that might be a good spot for him. Okay. The next item on the agenda is consideration of the mayoral appointment of George Carty to the Wixom Senior Citizen Commission with a term to expire June 30th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Mr. Carty happens to be here. Mr. Carty, would you like to come on up and introduce yourself? We all get a chance to take a look at your application that you filled out. So everybody up here already knows a little bit about you, but why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself and share with us.
George Carty, and I live at Highgate on the lake, 1589 Chownings Glen. A little bit about myself. I moved to Michigan about 40 years ago. Worked for a supplier of automotive original equipment parts, and after working in the engineering department in Virginia, moved to Michigan. And a few years later, after moving here, about 10 years later, 8 or 10 years later, I decided to make my home in Wixom. And although I've not been in any official capacity in Wixom, I have a pretty good knowledge of all the major things that have gone on. I think when I moved here was about the time that the Civic Center was being rebuilt. And since that time, of course, we've had the water issue. That was a big issue for many years. And of course, the downtown reconstruction and several other issues. And I have availed myself as much as possible. I think I've made probably on those issues that we've had over those years, attended every open house or community meeting or what that might be. And so I probably haven't had as much opportunity as I'd like to have attended the city council meetings over the years, but when I could, I've certainly been here and have an interest, big interest in the community. When I first moved here, it was more about location. I just like this general area. And I knew a little bit about the city, but not a lot. But the longer I've lived here, the more I've come to appreciate my good choice back at that time. And I do want to thank the mayor and the council for this appointment. I moved from, when I came here, I was middle-aged. And now I think I qualify for the senior commission in a number of ways. And I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Anybody have any questions? We have a motion for the appointment of George Carty to the Senior Commission. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for next on the agenda is a recommendation to award the low qualified bid for the fireworks display to Great Lakes Fireworks of East Point, Michigan for a 3-year contract for a total of $10,500 for 2019, $10,950 for 2020, and $10,950 for 2021, and to approve the 2019 permit application for the public fireworks display and authorize the mayor to sign the contract and permit on behalf of the city. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, any discussion? Deanna, did you want to
As you may have noticed in the report, our contract was up for fireworks, so we did rebid it for a 3-year contract. We had 3 bidders, with Great Lakes coming in the lowest, and we're recommending a 3-year contract. They've done that in the past, and we've been happy with it. Any questions you have, I'd like to entertain.
Mr. Resnick?
Just one question is that, will these be the ones that shoot up higher because of the location of
Yes.
discharge?
Yes, in the past, our contract was 8,500, but we've moved them all to 5 and 6s
5
in
and
shells,
6s.
so they go above the tree line.
And just the other comment that I heard from several people last year was 25 minutes seemed too short. So I know we had budgeted over 18,000, I think, and I know.
Oh,
it's
not
more
just
than
for that was just for the event. That wasn't
Yeah.
just for the fireworks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
our fireworks have always been between the ranges of 85 and 10.
85 and 10, okay. All right.
Mr. Gotcha?
Thank you. I noticed we did have a 4th bidder that you had made note of didn't attend the pre-bid meeting.
Correct.
During the pre-bid meeting, did they do like a site visit to the park or anything like that?
Yes, all of the bidders that have bid this project before have been to the site.
Okay.
And what we do for the pre-bid meeting is we invite the fire chief and police chief, so if they have any questions about safety issues or traffic flow or et cetera, they can be answered all at the pre-bid meeting. That's why we make it mandatory.
Because this seemed like I think probably 2 years ago at this point, I had mentioned maybe looking into like electronic pre-bid meetings where we can have like a Skype meeting or Google Hangout. And if we're not doing like site visits or something, and we can have contractors come in digitally and still ask questions and get information, that kind of seemed like an ideal situation to me. I know they ended up coming in the lowest. I don't know if they would have been able to meet what they were saying because they didn't show up to the pre-bid meeting, but it's just something I think we need to consider moving down the road if we're not actually having people look at kitchens and items like that where it's just informational and they can ask questions. Maybe an opportunity to do a digital or electronic pre-bid meeting might be.
And we do
worth looking
provide
into.
maps, and all of these vendors have been at the site physically. So they've all seen it, but we do make the meeting mandatory in case there was changes from last year or this year, questions, et cetera. We want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. We have a motion to award the low qualified bid for the fireworks display to Great Lakes Fireworks of East Point, Michigan. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is recommendation to approve the professional services agreement between Spalding DeDecker and the City of Wixom as a grant recipient on behalf of the Commerce, Walled Lake, and Wixom Trailway Management Council for the construction engineering services on the Michigan Airline Trail improvements, and authorize the mayor and the city clerk to sign the agreement. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Support.
Discussion? Anybody? Mr. Gotcha?
I've been saving all of my questions so far this year. Regarding this, and I know the comment that was made at the goal-setting session last night regarding everything coming in under what we had been anticipating.
Right.
I still don't recall seeing anything talking about what the trailway is going to be paved with. And I know that's something we started talking about a few years ago, I think early on into this term for me.
Right.
Is that information available yet? Because the bids have gone out and whatnot, we haven't seen them, to the best of my knowledge.
Oh, yeah, we do have all of that spec'd out in the construction plans, yes. So it's going to be an asphalt from stem to stern in our 3 communities is going to be the medium that we're going to use for paving the trail. Very excited about that. That was something that was made clear that was what Wixom preferred back in the day. I think that was something that was clearly preferred by Commerce as well, and Walled Lake also agreed after some discussion to go ahead with that plan, and that's what was scoped out in the project.
I appreciate it. That was my main concern, because I know when we all started talking about this a few years ago, it was like stones, like once you cross Haggerty, it turns into, and
Right.
it just didn't seem reasonable to me at least, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Don't let me forget to sign those tonight.
I won't.
Next item on the agenda is a recommendation to introduce an ordinance to amend the Wixom Code of Ordinances, Title I, General Provisions, Chapter 1.12, to add civil infractions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Do you want to put a little explanation out there?
Yeah,
for the
brief
record?
explanation on that, sure. The mayor and council had just recently discussed the introduction of the recreational marijuana ordinance for the city. During the course of that discussion, there were a couple of points made vis-a-vis how we're going to cover penalties for violation of that ordinance if it's ultimately adopted. And one of the things that came up was reference to civil infractions. And when we went back and deconstructed that and looked at how it was currently in place at the city, we discovered there's an issue in that front that we need to address first. And that's what this introduction of this particular ordinance is intended to do, to clarify some language and consolidate language related to civil infractions, essentially. So we're advocating to proceed with this amendment to change our code of ordinances to cover civil infractions in a more comprehensive, more clear fashion. We'll have that introduced tonight if it's approved by council, and then in 2 weeks we would have basically simultaneous action on, well, not quite simultaneous, we'd proceed with this one first for enactment, and then we can follow shortly thereafter with the recreational marijuana ordinance and take action on that as the council sees fit. So the purpose is just to clean up the language on civil infractions so that it can be referenced properly in the recreational marijuana ordinance if it's enacted, as well as all the other places that it's referenced in the code of ordinances as it stands. That helps.
Sure, appreciate it. Questions, comments? So does that just based on your explanation and the fact that we're going to have to do this one first so that we have that on the books before we pass the law, does that adversely impact any of the laws that reference that are currently on the books, or is that?
That's part of what we're going to have to do some cleanup after that, frankly, and we wanted to get the action done on the front end, if you will, on this. And the language in the amendment that's before you allows for the continuation of that other language by basically saying, to the extent there's language in other sections of the code of ordinances, that language can stand, essentially. So that allows that to stand. But it is my intention, and I think it will be the recommendation of the city attorney as well, that we go through and do a comprehensive cleanup of that so that we're hopefully in the end just referencing the central civil infractions section and not ending up with a situation maybe where we have inconsistencies where in one section of the code it might be $50 and another it might be $100. In one section it might reference a second offense and the other one it might not. So the idea is that we're going to look to clean up that language and reference the central civil infractions section in the end and keep it cleaner. That's what my ultimate goal is going to be. But we didn't, the city attorney recognized that and worded it in such a way that those existing inconsistencies can still stand and be enforced in the interim.
Very good. Anybody? Okay.
I have one question.
Please.
I believe I saw in the agenda packet that the city attorney, Rosati, she wrote the amendment, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to introduce the ordinance and amend the Wixom Code of Ordinances, Title I, General Provisions, Chapter 1.12.
Is there a copy of the ordinance
To,
that I can see?
excuse me, we have a call to the public, and you'll be able to address that later, okay? Thank you. We have a motion and a second to introduce the ordinance to amend the Wixom Code of Ordinances, Title I, General Provisions, Chapter 1.12, to add civil infractions. Do I have, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is recommendation to award the 2019 Sidewalk Program construction to Merlot Construction of Milford, Michigan, in an amount not to exceed $215,042.84. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
So moved.
A motion and a second discussion. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is the sidewalk program that we've come up with. Will include sidewalks along Wixom Road on the far north side of Wixom Road. It'll be a portion of connecting the gaps here on Pontiac Trail across the street here by the post office, and then also the north side of Grand River, basically from McDonald's to the edge of the city. And it'll just be the north side this time, but we've put that out to bid. Actually, we put it out to bid last fall, and because of, I'm guessing because of strikes and different things, it was quite a bit more expensive than we had anticipated, so we opted to wait. We also took off a portion of it that we weren't going to do near the Kleba building on the other side of Wixom Road here on Pontiac Trail. And taking those two off, it made it, I guess, more presentable, and it looked like we got a much better bid. So we're recommending to go with Merlot Construction for this contract. And last fall we had, just as a point of reference, the concrete work, the flat work for a 4-inch sidewalk was $635 last fall per square foot, and with this contract it'll be $4.25. So we were able to save a little bit just by waiting.
Discretion was the better part of valor.
It was at this point. But we did get the 3 bids that came in, and they were all fairly close together. And we have worked with Merlot Construction in the past, and we recommend them for this work.
Anybody have any comments, questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second to award the 2019 Sidewalk Program construction to Merlot Construction of Milford, Michigan, an amount not to exceed $215,042.84. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Tim. The next item on the agenda is a recommendation to utilize the bid process from the Oakland County Cooperative Purchasing Program and authorize the purchase of 3 replacement mobile data computers and peripheral equipment for the police department patrol vehicles for $13,351.59. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Welcome, Ms. Grunlin Fox.
Thank you.
As you know, in the patrol vehicles, we use mobile data computers, and recently there was a change in technology. And I hope you don't ask me a lot of questions about the technology itself, because I may not be able to answer, but there was a recent change in technology where the modems that go in the trunk of the patrol cars that operate the mobile data computers went from 3G to 4G. Which required us to get new modems. As a result of that, there was also a requirement that the patrol vehicles get new mobile data computers to go with the new modems. At this time, we have 3 new patrol vehicles that are we're due to start doing the changeover on them, swapping them out with the old ones. And staff believes that this is a good time, since we're doing the changeover anyways, to purchase the MDCs, the mobile data computers, and get them installed into the new cars.
Thank you. Anybody?
I have a question. Oh,
Sure. It's fine.
thank you. So you're doing 3 cars now, and then you'll be doing the remainder of the cars later in the year, or?
After the fiscal year, after July 1, we will purchase the remaining mobile data computers and gradually get them changed over into the existing patrol cars.
How many more patrol cars would that be?
3 more.
3 more, okay.
And we can, we'd like to do the 3 now because they're basically shells. There's nothing in them. After the fiscal year, we'll make the new purchase with council's approval, and then we can do it gradually, one at a time.
And that's based on the budget? That's why you're waiting till the new fiscal year?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering if it would be, if you get a better deal if you purchased all of them now. but it's just because the funds aren't available.
Right, it's part of our 10-year capital improvement plan to make the purchase in the next fiscal year.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Resnick?
Maybe just a comment to help bolster that. The AT&T has announced that the 3G activations, so for any new devices, will not occur for most Internet of Things devices or peripherals after March 31st this year. The network itself will run through 2022, but what you'll start seeing, and you can even look at the coverage maps, you'll start seeing areas where coverage is missing, shrinking, so it's a prudent time to do it. Anybody that's involved in the Internet of Things are doing this switchover right now as well, so it's a prudent time to do it.
We're being told we will not experience any loss of service.
Yeah, our area is pretty safe because it's
yes.
the metropolitan area.
But now is the time to, as you said, Mr. Resnick, to start making the transition to 4G.
Anybody else? Okay, we have a motion and a second to utilize the bid process from the Oakland County Cooperative Purchasing Program and authorize the purchase of 3 replacement mobile data computers and peripheral equipment for the police department patrol vehicles for $13,351.59. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is recommendation to waive the competitive bid process and authorize the purchase of 17 Razor 2 models of body armor and 10 load-bearing carriers and peripherals for $15,420 from On Duty Gear, LLC of Clinton Township, Michigan. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Thank you, Mayor. There are 17 sworn personnel with the police department right now. So that would be myself plus 16 sergeants and officers whose body armor is close to expiration. There's a manufacturer's scheduled replacement recommendation at 5 years. So we have 17 personnel in the police department due to get new body armor soon. So we've made purchases from this particular company, On Duty Gear LLC, for some of our new hires recently. And we've been very satisfied with them. They have the body armor that fits us, that suits us for comfort and for protection purposes. So we've been very satisfied with On Duty Gear LLC, but we did reach out to the other company in Michigan that does supply support this type of body armor, and we obtained a quote from both companies, and On Duty Gear LLC was the cheaper of the two. The additional item you'll see here is the 10 load-bearing vest carriers, and essentially that is, if you'll see in the report, that's a way of getting the approximately 20 pounds of extra equipment weight off the officer's hips, which helps with lower back problems, and it gets the equipment up onto their trunk. And we had 10 personnel in the police department who were, if it's approved, who were interested in participating in that load-bearing vest carrier piece of equipment. So I am requesting that you authorize this for the 17 pieces of body armor and the 10 pieces of load-bearing carriers.
Okay, discussion. Mr. Smiley.
Hello, Chief Moore. You skipped the best part. There's a 50% reimbursement.
You always catch me on that, don't you?
But much like our last meeting was a similar situation, that reimbursement of 50% isn't factored into this amount, right?
It is not, sir.
So
No.
the
Department of Justice.
15,000 and some change. Half of that's coming back, or
Yes.
a little less than that, because this includes the load bearing.
The load bearing is also included in the bulletproof
Right,
vest partnership.
But there's no 50% reimbursement on those.
Yes.
There is.
Yes,
Oh,
the total bill we'll get a reimbursement from the U.S. Department of Justice for 50% of the total bill.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Which I neglected to mention, thank you.
Sure. And then you also, in your report, mentioned that those load-bearing what are they called again, I'm sorry?
Load-bearing vest carriers.
Vest carrier.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting, there's more that the officers are carrying and your utility belt's getting full. I thought that was an interesting point that is valuable for the, you know, the vest, or the load-bearing piece to the vest.
Yes.
I forgot the third thing, but that's good. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Resnick?
Yeah, just one quick question. I know in the past, the age of the vests, they were accelerated by UV light, so ultraviolet light actually decreased the bond in the protective layer. Is that still the case, and what's the useful life of these new vests?
The new Kevlar, the new body armor, will still be within the protective carrier, whether they go with the traditional model, which I'm going with, because I'm old school, or whether they go with the load-bearing vest carrier. The body armor itself will still be protected by cloth, so there will be no direct exposure to the sunlight.
Is it 10-year, 5-year?
5-year scheduled replacement from the manufacturers, and that's kind of a law enforcement standard, 5 years.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? I remember 50 years ago being issued a gun. That was it. That was, you know, well, 6 bullets too.
Sure.
When I was sworn in 51 years ago as a Detroit cop, but things have changed. You see those. You see all the equipment that you're responsible for, and all the vests. I didn't have vests, but it's just amazing how things have changed. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is a couple of add-ons. We got consideration of appointing Mayor Richard Ziegler as a delegate and city manager Stephen Brown as an alternate for the Southeastern Michigan Council of Governments, or SEMCOG, General Assembly. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Support.
I understand there's some dissension here. Any discussion? This is just kind of an update of current practice. Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Thank you. And we have, this is something that came out of our goal setting last evening, so I'm really pleased to see this come before us. It's a recommendation that the mayor and the council approve the formation of a temporary, single-person, 3-member subcommittee of the mayor and council to advocate for changes to the state legislation that would enable the city of Wixom to consider the imposition of collection of a hotel accommodation tax, and appoint Deputy Mayor Patrick Beagle, Councilman Keenan Goschel, and Councilman Robert Smiley to the accommodations tax subcommittee for a period of up to 1 year. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Discussion. Do you want to kind of tell us what this is all about?
So during our goal-setting session last night, this was one of my goals as well as one of the deputy mayors. Right now we have 3, in Wixom we have 3 hotels in operation, 2 more being constructed, and potentially 1 more within the next few years. And every day or every so often, we have calls for fire and police to our hotels, and that's a drain on our resources as we continue to add hotels and more people coming into the city for a period of time and leaving. Calls are going to continue to go up, especially if certain facilities are built in the future that might see us have to go to a full-time fire department or something like that. So right now, the state, counties, city of Detroit, and other areas qualify to collect a hotel accommodation tax based on the daily rate, and they benefit from those. Right now, if we have 5 hotels in Wixom and we're not able to qualify to collect any occupancy tax, we're spending money on resources to handle the calls out to the hotels without getting any reimbursement for that. So that's a part of this goal, is to work with our state legislators, state representatives to try and enact some changes into the laws that will allow Wixom to qualify to be able to collect hotel occupancy tax. And by conservative estimates, that could be at the low end around $100,000 a year to our budget, and upwards of that depending on what the rate is. So I think it's something definitely worth exploring and hopefully getting some action at the state level, because it will definitely help our city as well. Thank you.
Anybody have anything to add or questions? Okay, I'm not going to reread that. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Great. Next item on the agenda is the second call to the public. I'll read the rules for public speaking again. The public shall address the city council during the call to the public, which shall be included on the agenda immediately after correspondence and again immediately after new business. The first call to the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless the time is extended by a majority vote of the council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and shall state their reasons for addressing council, and all comments by the council shall be made directly to the council. This is your opportunity to talk to us about anything that's on your mind. So anybody wishing to address the council on the second call to the public, please feel free to come forward and talk to us.
Who's the council over here?
Right here.
Oh, y'all the council?
Yeah, please state your name and your address.
And who is the mayor? If that's you, right?
That's me.
I know the mayor. Okay, thank you. My name is Carol Johnson Ahambe, and I live in Wixom. I live in the village. And my concern is, I want to know about what's on this agenda about the medical, the personal, the ordinance for Wixom dealing with marijuana.
The medical marijuana?
Yeah, the medical marijuana.
Yeah.
Is Wixom gonna be opt out of this marijuana like some cities are opting out of the
Recreational?
Yeah, the recreational, you know.
That is something that's pending. We've got an ordinance that was introduced last meeting, and it is, in fact.
But I would like a copy of that ordinance. Could I have a copy of that
You
ordinance?
can get one at the clerk's office.
Yeah, because
It's not an ordinance yet, it's a proposed.
it's a proposed ordinance.
Right.
I know, I want to read the
Yeah.
proposed ordinance, you know, and because I wasn't here at, this is my first meeting. I've been trying to make it to the meeting, but on the second Tuesday, I'm very busy with my church and stuff on the second Tuesday, and even the fourth Tuesday, I'm extremely busy on Tuesdays. It's a bad day for me. But today, I was committed to come today so I can meet all you gentlemen and ladies. And what's your name over here?
Kathy Buck.
Kathy?
Mhm.
Buck.
Right.
Yeah, I remember seeing you. I know you and this.
Steve
nice-
Brown.
What's your name?
Steve Brown.
Yeah, Steve Brown.
We
Yeah,
met.
we met, okay? I know them by face. I don't know people by names, you know. I'm 31. Second go round is better. And don't add it together because that's not my age, you know. But I'm holding at 30. So remember that, because I got a birthday this next month, you know. So, but I have a youth ministry, and I have to keep up with my babies. You know, I'm very concerned with children. Okay, so they're my heart. Okay, so and it got to be safe in the city where I live because I'm from Detroit and I love Detroit. So I'm always doing positive stuff in Detroit. Okay? So I was born and raised in Detroit. Okay? And I lived in Michigan all my life. You know, I haven't lived nowhere else. But I would like to move to a warm climate. And it's not going to be Florida, and it's not going to be California, but it's going to be Georgia. Okay? So, y'all have a wonderful evening, and I enjoy y'all taking care of business that y'all did, because I like the agenda and what's on here. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Just reminds me that that I was born and raised in Detroit also, and I'm only 29.
Well, I'm not going back in my 20s.
Okay. Thanks for coming out. Next.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas Fagnolo. I reside at 3066 Bennington Drive here in Wixom. I was just here to ask the council and the city manager if there has been any movement or if there's an update that could be given on any proposed adjustments to the peddling, soliciting, and canvassing ordinance that was discussed towards the end of last year in November and December city council meetings. I believe the conclusion of those meetings was that the entire ordinance would be brought back to set outside meetings to be discussed, and then brought back to the city council at some point to discuss proposed changes. I've been watching the city council agendas and haven't seen it come back up. We learned this early at the beginning of this meeting that we will be having an election here early May, so I'd like to hopefully see some changes made to the ordinance before we get to that election. I know that I would like to canvass about that issue and would like to see some of these concerns that we addressed at the end of last year resolved before we get to this upcoming election season.
The election that you're talking about in May is just a school board run election, or it's run by us, but it's a school board. It's the only issue on it is that ballot proposal.
Sure.
But so that wouldn't be something that would be on that ballot. But I know that city manager and I had a conversation just today about the ordinance that you're talking about, and you know, we're looking at it. I don't know if it's ready for revision. I don't know if it's going to be revised. We're going to have some further discussion with the attorney, and we've got several things going, and we're going to take a look at it certainly.
Okay, so no timetable?
No timetable.
Given. Okay. Okay, I just know that there are several interested parties on this issue and that they'd like to see movement sooner rather than later. I understand that the bond is the only issue on the special election, but still people care about their schools and want to talk to their neighbors about these issues and would like to be able to speak to all their neighbors and not just a subset of those neighbors who are, you know, not being dealt with this, you know, particular sign issue that I'm obviously concerned of, but other issues in the ordinance as it currently stands. So thank you for your time.
Just as an aside, I don't know that there's anything in that ordinance that prevents anybody from going to door and talking to people about the issue. There's nothing in there that prevents you.
Just as I guess a recap, the issue that I personally had when this issue was previously raised was the signage that certain neighborhoods are allowed to put out in front of their neighborhood entrances that allow them to say no canvassing and therefore have a blanket ban on canvassing within their neighborhoods. And the issue that myself and others have, and that I believe that Councilman Gutschall raised at those meetings about whether or not that blanket ban in a neighborhood on public streets was constitutional on a First Amendment basis, and whether or not the police are being called out on people who are exercising their First Amendment rights to canvass in neighborhoods that are behind these no canvassing signs. So that was the concern at the time about this no canvassing and I guess no soliciting on the signs. We didn't have a resolution at the time. and they're just hoping to get some resolution on that here soon, as we have, an election here in May as well as in November for local elections. Just would like to know if work is going on there, and if not, express interest in seeing that work happen. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Seeing no one, I'll close the second call to the public. Next item on the agenda is the city manager's comments.
Thank you, Your Honor. In my city manager update, there's several items that are in there. I'm not going to go over everything, but I did want to point out a couple of different things. First of all, congratulations to our deputy clerk, Crystal Opalco. She recently earned her designation as a certified municipal clerk, which is an outstanding achievement through the International Institute of Municipal Clerks. Basically just demonstrates her proficiency in her job and her skills in doing the work that she does for the city of Wixom. So we're very pleased to have her complete that, and it was a lot of work on her part, so we want to say congratulations to Crystal Opalco for that. We had an item before our superintendent came out to talk with us about the election day being May 7th, 2019, which the only item on it is that Walled Lake Consolidated School District bond proposal that the superintendent covered earlier. And the other note that I'll mention on that is absentee voter ballots will be sent by the second week of April for that election on May 7th. There's a variety of other things in there. The other thing that I found interesting that we had in there as well, in the Construction and Development Services Department update, there's a variety of updates on different projects that are ongoing in the city, and it references to the hotel projects that were the subject of that earlier item that was before you for discussion and approval. The Spring Hill Suites and My Hotel are currently undergoing construction in the city, and you've seen that going up. That's just to bolster that commentary that was made earlier. We already have 3 hotels, and we're going to have 2 more shortly when those are completed, with the potential for another large one if another project goes through as somebody is potentially proposing. Other than that, I'm not going to go over the other detailed items on there, other than to say the industrial commercial properties location, formerly known as the Ford Wixom plant, does have equipment on site, not quite ready to get to work on that. There's a couple of things we're going to work through with the city before they begin that work, but that work should be started soon. So we're excited to see that, and excited to have the opportunity to have those 182 acres that have long been an eyesore in town, right in the center of town, subject to redevelopment by a company who's demonstrated their ability to do that exact kind of redevelopment on a former auto plant property here in our city. So we're excited about that and should be seeing action on that soon. Other than that, I don't have anything else. If there's anything I can answer that's on the mind of anybody from council, I'd be happy to do so if I can, or seek some additional information if I need to.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item on the agenda are the city council comments. Mr. Smiley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to congratulate and welcome Councilwoman Tia Groenland-Fox to the dais up here. Nice to have you. Also, congratulations to Ms. Palco. And going back to we said a little bit already about last night's goal setting session. It was very productive. We all enjoyed it and said so. But I also wanted to point out that it was nice having the staff there. I appreciate their time and their contributions to the discussion. It was valuable. Finally, everyone have a safe as well as happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you.
Mr. Gashel.
Thank you. Driving down Wixom Road the other day, it was very exciting to see the equipment at the ICP property. It's nice to finally see some activity over there, even if it's in optimism and waiting for other things to happen. But for sitting vacant for so long, it's nice to at least see trucks on site ready to go when they are able. I also wanted to share my congratulations to our deputy clerk on earning her designation as a certified municipal clerk. I know that our city clerk and deputy city clerk always are working on continuing their education in their profession, and we see the designations that they get and all the good news that comes along with that in terms of items like record passport revenue and processes and smooth elections and pre-planning for massive voter turnout when other cities weren't. So it's very nice to always be ahead of the game. So I definitely appreciate that. I know that the city residents do as well. And then I wanted to also welcome our newest council member and say that I welcome you and look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Resnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to welcome Tia Grenlund Fox to council, and just in time for the preparation of budget sessions, which I think you'll be a valuable asset.
My favorite time.
With your experience, that's great. Congratulations to Deputy Clerk Crystal on her certification as well. She's done a wonderful job, and I know when she's been there alone, when Kathy's been gone, she's done an outstanding job and taking minutes as well. The weather is breaking, so construction will be back underway in a lot of these developments, and I noticed that yeah, you feel it, and you see some of the mud drying up already, and it's going to be nice to see these things get underway. What was amazing this winter is construction on these housing developments continued even through that bad weather. So that's you never saw that 30 years ago. I'm also very excited to see that the Trailway is getting underway, and I know that construction bids and everything else are completed, and I think with the completion of a couple of our discontinuous sections on Wixom and Pontiac Trail, that'll help in the egress to and from that Trailway as we garner some excitement here towards the end of the summer when that gets completed and connect all these communities. I also wanted to mention that there were two structure fires called out in the January Fire Department. One was my home, and I just want to say thank you to Public Safety Director and the fire crews that did arrive. One thing I know that the fire chief does mention in his little corner in the crossroads is you should be replacing your fire detectors once every 10 years. I had no idea until we had this fire that you need to do that. Maybe I just never read it. But our house is 30 years old, and I imagine most of the houses in that subdivision are approaching 30. And just as a public service announcement, replace those fire detectors. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Grenlund Fox.
I would just like to say thank you for the warm welcome. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd just like to echo all the other comments that my fellow council members said, especially Crystal and her success at completing and getting certified as a clerk. Several years ago, we had, I thought we were pretty progressive. We had two women council members up here, and then one by one they decided not to run. And I remember about 4 years ago, Lori Rich had been serving. She served about 12 years up here, and then she left. And when she did leave, she decided not to run. And when at her last meeting, I can remember making the comments that we were going to miss having a female perspective on council because the election had been held and we were all set with the all-male council. And I think we have missed that. I think we've missed it quite a bit. When Mr. Kennedy decided to retire from council, last meeting announced it, and I was very pleased when I got communication of interest from Ms. Grenlund Fox. I really thought that was great, and I especially was happy to see it when I read her qualifications. I was really struck by how much experience that you've had, and I was flattered that you were interested in serving up here and really pleased with it. And it's really good. I think it's going to be good to have a female perspective up here on council once again. So I certainly welcome you, and I know the rest of us do. And I know that I've spoken with the other members of council who are not here this evening, and I know that they're excited as well to have you here. And we're looking forward to your expertise and your areas of expertise. And we're really happy to have you here. George Cardy, I appreciate your volunteering, and I went this morning to the meeting, the senior commission meeting, and just announced that you were going to make this appointment this evening, and some of your fellow members are here this evening to greet you and to welcome you. So thanks for your volunteering, and welcome aboard. Appreciate your volunteering. Once again, good meeting. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Support.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Go home.